Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. I hope everybody is enjoying lunch. I hope everybody is enjoying this absolutely delightful weather we're having here. It's good to see all of you, really. Thank you for coming. For those of you who haven't met me before, I'm Kim Weeden. I'm a professor of sociology, and I'm also the director of the Institute for the Social Sciences here at Cornell. One of the things that we do at the Institute for the Social Sciences is really try to bring together faculty across multiple disciplines who happen to be working on a similar topic or a similar range of issues, but that may not come together in any other way. Cornell, as many of you know, is a relatively diverse and relatively fragmented institution, and sometimes you may be working on a similar topic with somebody else in the university, you may never know it. So one of the goals of the Institute of Social Sciences is to bring together people who are working on a similar set of issues and to provide some research support for them, but also provide a common space for them to interact and to learn from each other, hopefully cross-fertilize with ideas and with any luck, begin to collaborate with each other. So I wanted to mention, given the theme of sustainability of today's event, two of our upcoming theme projects in the ISS are actually very closely related to issues of sustainability. One of them is just called the Land Project, which is in its first year. These are 3-year projects, and the Land Project is in its first year, or its planning year, and it's led by Chuck Kiesler and Wendy Wolford in development sociology. And the goal of this particular team is to really think about issues related to land, related to property rights, related to sort of who gets access to resources, how that changes over time, how our relationship to the land has changed over time. So that's one theme project that's coming up that should be of interest to many of you who are interested in sustainability issues. And the second theme project, which will actually follow the land team, and so they're going to begin entering their planning year next year, has to do with creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And this is a theme project that's led by Diane Burton, who is a sociologist who is over in ILR in the Human Resource Studies Department. But this team is really intended to focus on issues, as the name suggests, of thinking about the creative process, how creativity occurs, but also how you can foster innovation, and what are some of the consequences of technological innovation for various social issues. So it's really trying to understand the social processes underlying technological innovation, much of which, of course, now has to do with sustainability issues. So if you haven't heard about these projects, I'm telling you about them now, but I'm also encouraging you, this is a blatant advertisement, encouraging you to go to the ISS website, which is socialsciences@cornell.edu, actually socialsciences.cornell.edu. And sign up to be an affiliate, and we will inundate you with announcements of absolutely fascinating talks related to these issues of land and property rights next year, and then the subsequent year will be creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So the purpose of the event today, much like the purpose of these ISS theme projects, is really to foster some connections here, not just within social sciences, but also between social scientists and physical and life and natural scientists and engineers. And of course, one of the topic, if you will, that brings us all together is thinking about sustainability. I think there's a sense that a lot of the work on sustainability at Cornell is sort of headquartered, located in the physical and life sciences. But it would probably surprise none of you to hear that I think the social sciences actually have a critical role in understanding sustainability issues. Consider, for example, climate change, right? So you can't understand climate change without understanding and measuring ice core temperatures. You can't understand it without understanding and measuring CO2 levels and so forth. But I'd argue that you also can't understand it without understanding the social dimensions. It's fundamentally a social problem as much as it is an environmental problem. So thinking about how social sciences might approach this idea or this issue or the topic of climate change, you can actually think about the micro level. So we want to understand how it is that individuals make decisions, day-to-day decisions that at the time seem perfectly rational about their consumption practices, about how much their fossil fuels they're using up and so forth. But over the long term, are detrimental both to their own well-being, but also to the collective well-being. So we need to understand something about individual decision-making in order to be able to tackle the problem of climate change. thinking about a slightly bigger level, we might want to understand how the structures and dynamics of the social networks in which people are embedded affect their various decisions about what it is that they're consuming, right? So we know that social networks affect health. They affect sort of whether we copy our friends in terms of underage drinking, for example. But we might also want to be able to understand, well, how is it that the social networks in which people are embedded affect their decisions about sort of environmental issues and the consumption of fossil fuels. We might also want to know something about environmental movements, right? So in social sciences, there's a study of social movements as a particular type of organization. And we might want to know about the environmental movement and to what extent that, as a social movement, shares characteristics with other types of social movements, but also whether the strategies of environmental movements are in fact influencing how corporations make decisions about pollution or other sorts of issues that do affect the climate and the environment. We might want to know something about who disproportionately feels the effects of climate change, right? And how do the social structure, the position that people are in who are feeling the effects of climate change the most, how does that position, often a position of weakness, affect the extent to which policies to slow down climate change or to mitigate its effects are adopted? And of course, so this is all just thinking about climate change, but of course social scientists also have much to say about other types of sustainability, in particular social sustainability. Just as we think about environmental sustainability, we want to know something about social and political and legal sustainability. So a big question that captures many social scientists' attention might be something like, well, can we even have a sustainable democracy in periods of rapidly rising income inequality and other forms of inequality? How can we improve standards of living in impoverished areas in the short term without causing environmental or economic damage in the long term? Is the notion of sustainable economic growth, is that even possible, or is that simply an oxymoron? And one of my favorites, what does it say about the relationship between humans and the land when Cornell posts signs everywhere that say danger natural area? Have you guys noticed those signs? I mean, they're all over campus. And that says something about human-land relationships. And we might also want to understand what are those relationships? How have they changed over time? How do they vary across space? So the event today, it's probably not going to talk about any of those issues in particular, but I just wanted to give you a flavor of what I think the social sciences can contribute to the discussion of sustainability. The event today is really an effort to showcase and to support social scientists who are studying sustainability, very broadly defined. As you'll see from the papers today, a very wide range of particular topics, all of which are loosely related to sustainability, but nonetheless part of that larger phenomenon. And of course, the hope is that this event will open up lines of research, but also open up lines of communication within the social sciences and also between the social sciences and the other parts of campus. So we're very, very happy at the ISS to be able to work with the Atkinson Center to provide a forum for these discussions. I want to introduce Frank here, Frank Disalvo, and while he's coming up, I also want to speak to another issue of sustainability, and that is that the ISS would not itself be sustained, see what I just did there, without the help of two absolutely fabulous people. They're going to be embarrassed that I'm saying anything, but I'm going to do it anyway. So Annalisa Truaim is our administrative manager, and Lori Sonkin, who has done an enormous amount of work to put this event together. So thank you for your... And just to introduce Frank Disalvo, he's the director of the Atkinson Center for a Sustainable Future, and he's also the John A. Newman, I'm sorry, I had to read that off my notes, John A. Newman Professor of Physical Science.
So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. I'm delighted to be co-sponsoring this event, or the Atkinson Center is delighted, I should say, with the ISS. I believe this is the fourth event of this type that we've sponsored jointly, and it's been a big success, bringing together people from across the campus, as has already been explained by Kim. I think there are 6 speakers today, this afternoon. You have the schedule, and it looks like a very exciting set of presentations and discussions will ensue. So I would just want to start off by asking a question, which is, how many of you know what the heck the Atkinson Center is? Maybe half. Okay, good. We've been on the campus for a little over 5 years. And when I go out and talk to people about the Atkinson Center and the kinds of things we're trying to do, I generally have a little short plug that I use when I'm talking either to alums or to foundations or other organizations that we want to connect with. And so I thought I'd run that by you. I'm going to just basically read it and then say something about how we actually try to bring this to life at Cornell and your role in all of that. So I usually start off by saying that at Cornell, we believe that achieving a sustainable future for all is possible. But achieving that future will not be easy, nor will it be quick. Success requires forming new collaborations and partnerships within and especially beyond the university that assemble complementary skills and capabilities in innovative ways that result in impact. That is the mission of the Atkinson Center, generously supported by our founder, David Atkinson, who has endowed the center, and his wife, Pat. I tell them that, especially for non-Cornellians, that Cornell is a large, diverse, decentralized, as Kim was saying, university with 11 colleges and some 1,600 faculty on the Ithaca campus, and about 500 more in New York. We are both a land grant and a private institution. A role of the Atkinson Center for a Sustainable Future is to connect capability across the campus and facilitate the engagement of this diverse capability with parties outside the university to bring things to scale and to have real human impact and to affect human well-being. We are problem-focused, not so discipline-focused. We view sustainable solutions to consist of 3 interconnected and interdependent elements: energy, environment, and economic development. The latter, of course, has everything to do with human well-being. Our belief and experience is that sustainable solutions are those that are appropriate to their cultural, social, and behavioral contexts. As a side note, I'll mention that I'm a physical scientist, I'm a chemist, I work on materials for energy systems, in particular batteries and fuel cells. So as daunting as I think the technology problems are connected with sustainability, Kim is absolutely right. It's going to be the social, all the things that have to do with the way humans interact with each other that's going to determine what we do or don't do. Now, we believe that Cornell has unique breadth and depth of assets, intellectual, organizational, and physical, needed to lead the way. Our benchmarks support this belief. In our first 4 years, we invested about $9 million, a little over $9 million, in center programs designed to address the things that I talked about above, but has returned already more than $90 million to the university in follow-on funding to help grow things towards scale. So it shows that there's capacity here to do this and a desire to do this. All that we really need to do is to pull together to do it. Now, much of this follow-on has come from federal grants. And while that's delightful, now is the time to considerably extend beyond this base, to connect to all sectors of society and the economy, which is going to be necessary to get where we want to go. There are over 315 faculty fellows who are engaged with the center, and they represent over 65 departments at the university and all 11 colleges. You may know that we have just slightly over 100 departments in the university. So that's an amazing collection of people cutting across all conceivable disciplines that you could think about. 2 examples illustrate our approach. In April of last year, we announced a strategic partnership between CARE, the relief organization, and Cornell. The objective is to address the needs of women and families in building resilient communities in Africa, where CARE does most of its work. This collaboration combines Cornell research teams and CARE staff on the ground in pilot projects to identify robust approaches to implement data and knowledge-based solutions. One of these projects focuses on the development of indigenous biofertilizers as an alternative to expensive imported chemical fertilizers. A second project aims to reduce mother-to-child HIV transmission using performance-based incentives for the healthcare workers. A second developing world challenge is to provide affordable liquid fuels from waste biomass while enhancing soil productivity. This can be addressed in parts by pyrolysis of biomass. Pyrolysis is a heating process in the absence of air that leads to useful products. The initial team includes, for example, a soil scientist, 2 combustion engineers, an economist, a microbiologist, and an NGO in Kenya. That's the kind of connections we're trying to build across the campus. And so that gives you an idea of what the Atkinson Center is about. And I want to just go a little bit deeper than that. And I want to say that you can take with you, out on the desk, you can take a sheet with you that says, what are the programs that we have to encourage these activities? I mentioned spending on programs. We have seed programs. We sponsor events like this. We have things called topical lunches where we gather people together over lunch to talk about specific ideas. We've done more than 90 of those already, bringing people together across campus. A very effective way to get people collaborating with each other. So our first purpose really then is, or programs are really focused on convening and connecting people. Kim pointed out, it's easy to have someone here and someone here on the campus working on very similar things. They have no idea that each other exists. So it's really, how do we get them together? It turns out lunch is often enough of a motivation to get them together. And I see you're here as well. So we run those topical lunches, for example. We have worked with ISS on this Young Social Scientist Sustainability Research Forum. We also work with humanists in a program called CREST, the Cornell Roundtable on Environmental Studies Topics. And so there's a reaching out across the campus to get people together and to talk. Beyond that, we try to incubate and innovate. So incubate is really seeding activities. We have a number of programs. The Academic Venture Fund is one where we seed groups so that they can get initial data, proof of principle, or sometimes just show that they can really work together as a diverse team to address specific problems that allows them then to take that to an external organization who's interested in making that grow and really coming up with solutions to particular problems. We have other ways of seeding things, of funding things between the Academic Venture Fund as a yearly cycle, but between those yearly competitions, we have something called the Rapid Response Fund. Generally has less money for shorter periods of time, but it can help people get going. We do proposal support when teams come together to build large proposals. And we work with the colleges on faculty hiring to further sustainability goals in hiring. We also have programs that are expressly built from the beginning with external partners as collaborators. I've already mentioned the CARE Cornell partnership, which in fact is, I was told at the time by CARE, was the first strategic partnership between a relief organization and a university in this country ever. You say, gee, that's a long time in coming, but it was the first. It's really great. And flowing from that, Wendy Wolford has been spearheading a new relationship with Oxfam and Cornell based on the same sort of idea, and that's just getting off the ground now. We also have a strategic sustainability collaborations effort, which works with industry, government, or foundations, again, starting from the beginning, working together towards certain projects. Of course, all of this is not possible without excellent communications, and that's why I asked the question, who knows about the Atkinson Center? Because we want to tell your stories about addressing sustainability, and especially your stories of finding new people to collaborate with to address things that you couldn't address before. And so communications is really important. We have a monthly newsletter. We have a very extensive website. We issue annual reports, and there's a couple of annual reports out on the table if you would like to take one with you, but you can find it all on the website if you'd like to look at it. And there's a number of programs that are expressly aimed at students, undergraduates, graduate students, and postdocs. Of course, all the things that we do in our programs, such as the Seed Academic Venture Fund, all the research that's done is carried out by students and postdocs. So much of our activity is focused on the research end of things rather than on the teaching end of things. So they're really, we collaborate with faculty across the campus to think about education, but our primary focus is on the research to address those issues. So that's who we are, and as I said, we're delighted to be co-sponsoring this event with the Institute for Social Sciences. I hope you have a great time this afternoon. I know people will be coming in and out because they have various other things they need to do. But do engage with people, and when you hear about things that interest you, do talk to people, especially during the breaks, and ask plenty of questions. And I thank you very much for your attention. I think we'll get started.